It started with a tremor in my pinky. Not fear, caffeine, and spite. I'd been up all night running packet captures on our payment gateway sandbox because something smelled off. Not metaphorically. I mean, literally, like burnt plastic and corporate denial. I'd been in the startup world long enough to recognize the stench of speed over safety. But this time, the numbers weren't just ugly. They were radioactive. One of our internal API endpoints, /fastpay/process batch, was not only exposed, but wide open. No auth, no rate limiting, just dangling out there like a raw nerve with root access. I sent a ping from a burner laptop outside the corporate firewall. Got a 200 OK response in 38 milliseconds. No CAPTCHA, no token, no nothing. Just a silent green light that whispered, "Come steal." And to really season the nightmare, the payload included encrypted customer tokens that could be cracked if you so much as sneezed at M sideways with modern GPUs. I tested 4. One opened a dummy account. The second, real user, real bank, real routing number. I stared at my screen, heart rate climbing, that awful electric sweat pooling in my armpits. This wasn't a log it and circle back kind of bug. This was the kind of bug that got congressional hearings named after it. So I did what you're supposed to do. I wrote it up. Tagged it P1 critical. User data exposure via unprotected API. Attached screenshots, logs, full curl requests, and the encryption breakdown. 5 minutes before the daily team sync, I pinged Jasper in Slack with a heads up. Need 5 mins on this in the call. Urgent. Now, Jasper, bless his cargo gene soul, was the kind of guy who called himself a tech whisperer and genuinely thought blue light glasses made him visionary. The man once said out loud, "A meeting, encryption is a vibe, not a science." And he meant it. The sync kicks off. Everyone's video on, cameras crisp. The designer's flexing a new onboarding animation. Marketing's hyped about launch day buzz. Jasper's in his home office, backlit like a Dollar Tree messiah, sipping something green and smug. I clear my throat. "Hey, I've got something important before we jump into metrics." "Make it snappy," Jasper says. "Today's about wins." I pull up my screen share, walk them through it. Step by step. Dry voice, no drama. I show the endpoint, the cracked token, the balance transfer between accounts. This isn't theoretical. This is real, exploitable, and if pushed live, catastrophic. Silence. Then Jasper chuckles. Actually chuckles. "Okay, Nancy Drew, appreciate the bedtime story. But we've had 2 pentists and they didn't flag this. Because it's only exposed in the new gateway instance from yesterday," I reply. "Deployment config bypassed the auth layer. It's not in staging, only prod. That's why I caught it now." Jasper waves a hand. "Look, we're not going to derail launch week because you had a spooky dream. We've got investor eyeballs on this. Don't go doom and glooming the vibe." "I'm not glooming anything. I'm showing you a hole that could sink the whole goddamn ship. You're showing me how not to be a team player," he snaps. No one speaks. The project manager fidgets. Junior dev glances at her phone. The CTO, dialed in but muted, leaves his camera off, like a ghost, like always. Jasper claps his hands once, like he's ending a TED talk. "All right, moving on. Marketing, what's the ad spend look like for launch day?" And just like that, it's over. My screen share cuts off. My name disappears from the agenda. The call rolls on. I mute myself, then kill the call altogether. Sit there in the dark with a blinking cursor and a bile-slick throat. Outside my window, Columbus is soaked in freezing rain, the kind that makes the whole city smell like wet pennies and broken dreams. And I'm sitting here realizing something I've tried to deny for 3 long years. No one at this company gives a shit about what's real. They only care what looks good in a pitch deck. But me, I document everything. I wasn't going to let it die in a Zoom graveyard. The second that call ended, I screenshotted the Slack convo, exported the meeting transcript, and dropped my report, labeled and timestamped, into the internal bug tracker with every receipt you could dream of. Repro steps. Payloads, dependencies, log trails. I even ran a short POC script that siphoned 10 test transactions in real time. No alarms, no throttling, just digital bloodletting, clean and silent. I slapped a red flag on it, blocker for production release. Severity, critical, assigned to backend lead. Visibility, exec team. Then I crafted the email. Short, clinical, nuclear. Subject, urgent, unprotected API vulnerability compromising customer data high all. Please see ticket #1449. I've confirmed a live exposure path through our new payment gateway endpoint. No auth, no rate limiting. Tokens leak on minimal effort. I strongly recommend we halt deployment and patch immediately. Details attached. I sent it to the leadership distro. Jasper, the CTO, our head of compliance. Even the VP of product, who mostly spent his days forwarding memes and sipping bone broth. No one could claim ignorance now. Then I waited. 15 minutes later, I got the first reply. From the CTO. A simple forward. WD re. Urgent unprotected API vulnerability Jasper, please see below. Steve, no comment. No question, just a pass-the-buck flick of his wrist. Like I dropped a wet diaper in his lap and he was sliding it down the table. I waited an hour. Nothing. No acknowledgements, no ticket comments, just static. At 3:12 p.m., Jasper slacked me. Hey, can we chat real quick? Hop in ConfB. Now, ConfB wasn't really a conference room. It was a glorified storage closet in the back of the office with a table, 2 chairs, and an old Roomba that cried when it moved. But it was private, and it was where Jasper went to bury things. I slid into the room. He was already sitting, phone face down, sipping whatever kale-spawned smoothie his gut bacteria worshipped. He didn't smile, didn't nod, just leaned back and sighed like a man preparing to explain math to a toddler. So what are we doing here, huh? I blinked, following protocol. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. No, what you're doing is setting fires, right before launch. I flagged a security hole. That's literally my job. You didn't flag a hole. You tossed a grenade into morale. I just stared at him. This isn't about morale, it's about liability. Jasper's nostrils flared like a bull on Adderall. You're trying to sabotage my launch. My pulse skipped. What, making us look incompetent? I'm making us look careful. No, you're making me look like I don't have control over my own platform. He stood up, pacing, arms flailing like some kind of mid-tier motivational speaker having a meltdown. Do you know how this looks to investors? Right before the demo round, they see a big red critical flag in our tracker, and suddenly I'm fielding calls from compliance, asking why the security team's screaming bloody murder. Should be asking that. They should be asking why you're panicking, why you're spreading doubt in the team, why you're inserting yourself into deployment. My voice dropped, cold, measured. You're asking me to ignore a flaw that exposes live customer financial data. If that goes public, we're done. Game over. He looked at me, really looked, and I swear something flickered behind his eyes. Not fear, not reason. Just ego, dense and bulletproof. You've made your point. You've documented it. Let us handle it from here. That's not, he cut me off, voice suddenly calm. We're not delaying launch. Full stop. Silence stretched. I felt it then, the gut drop. The real betrayal wasn't that he didn't believe me. It was that he did and didn't care. I stood, slowly, collected my folder. I hope your pitch deck has a line item for breach recovery. He smiled, all teeth, like a man who'd already sold the house and was watching the termites eat the beams. Thanks for your concern. Don't worry, your name's not on anything. That was supposed to be comfort. It sounded like an obituary. The calendar ping came in at 9:14 a.m. Mandatory HR check-in. 9:30 sharp. Conference A. Please do not be late. No subject line. No explanation. Just that creepy neutral tone corporate uses when they're about to yank the floor out from under your whole damn life. I already knew what it was. No one schedules a wellness check unless they're prepping your obituary in the company Slack. And the minute I walked into that glass box of a conference room, every molecule in the air screamed setup. Sarah from HR was there, all teeth and tight blinks, trying to wear empathy like a cardigan. She sat beside a man I'd never seen before, outside consultant energy, thick folder on the table, one of those ballpoint pens that looked like it belonged to a villain. Hey, Sarah said, dragging the word out like it might soften what was coming. Just wanted to connect about some recent concerns. I didn't sit. Is this about the critical vulnerability I reported? She blinked like I'd farted in a chapel. It's more about how you've been communicating with the team. There've been reports of elevated tension. Some people felt unsafe. Unsafe, I echoed, flat as asphalt. She folded her hands. Language like game over, catastrophic failure, can destabilize morale, especially during a high-pressure sprint. So the problem isn't the breach, it's that I described the breach too accurately. Outside consultant guy cleared his throat. We're concerned about a pattern of negative framing, undermining leadership, disrupting workflows. Ultimately, that creates a hostile work environment. I laughed, just once. Low, ugly. Sarah winced. I looked at her dead on. You're firing me. We're terminating your employment effective immediately, she said, lips tight like she'd rehearsed it on a stress ball that morning. We'll be providing severance and a positive reference for your next role. Is the reference going to mention I tried to stop you from launching a live grenade? No answer. They slid a paper across the table. I didn't read it, just signed. The decision was already carved in stone. I wasn't here to win. I was here to witness. Security was waiting by my desk. Not even Bill, the usual guy with the soft eyes and crossword puzzle mug. No, they sent some new kid with the muscles and the buzz cut and the don't make a scene posture. I packed a banker's box while the team pretended not to stare. A few heads ducked behind monitors. One guy opened and closed his Slack so fast it sounded like popcorn. No one said a word, not even Kristen. I trained for 6 months and covered for her when she got sick on deadline. Not even Lewis, who once called me the spine of the dev floor. Silence. Complicity always sounds like silence. I dropped my notebook, a company hoodie, and my backup drive into the box. The drive held copies of the ticket, the email threads, Jasper's Slack responses, and most importantly, the full exploit demo. If they were going to toss me in the river, I'd at least keep a dry copy of the autopsy report. As I turned toward the elevator, Jasper stepped out of his office with a smoothie in hand and fake sympathy painted across his face like he'd printed it from a meme. "Hey," he said, walking past like we were still colleagues, "best of luck in your next role." I didn't answer, didn't break stride, just smiled and kept walking, because if I stopped, I would have said something that would get me sued. The elevator doors closed, caught my reflection, face flushed, hair frizzed from the drizzle outside, eyes dry but vibrating. The kind of look you get when dignity and fury are playing tug-of-war with your nervous system. I stepped out onto the sidewalk and into a wind that could flay skin off bone. It felt good, real, honest, like it didn't give a damn about tech launches or Q4 reports or whether or not I destabilized morale. I walked to the coffee shop 2 blocks down, ordered something black and bitter, sat by the window with my box beside me and my pulse finally slowing. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't feel like prey. They'd shoved me out like a liability. But what they didn't realize, what Jasper would never realize, was that I hadn't left empty-handed. I left with proof. The first week felt like free fall in molasses. No screaming, just slow motion collapse. I woke up at 7:00 a.m. every day out of habit, made coffee like I still had somewhere to be, then sat at the kitchen table staring at a screen that no longer expected anything from me. I rewrote my resume 5 different ways. Reframed the termination as a strategic career pivot, added words like resilience, cross-functional, adaptable. Bullshit armor for a battlefield that didn't care why you bled. I pinged old recruiters, dated my LinkedIn header to something corporate optimistic, security strategist seeking new opportunities. What I really wanted to write was, I tried to save a company from itself and got kneecapped for the trouble. And in between those edits, I couldn't stop seeing the ads. They were everywhere. Google banners, sponsored tweets, LinkedIn sidebar placement with that insufferable launch tagline, bank-level security, startup speed. Every time the phrase popped up, felt a little piece of me rot because I knew the truth. I held the truth. I had screen recordings, packet logs, full reports that showed their so-called bank-level security was duct tape and hope, strung together by engineers forced to meet Jasper's delusional timeline. They hadn't fixed it. I knew it in my bones. A patch that big would have delayed the entire deployment. And if they'd quietly pulled it, the launch would have stalled. But here they were, gloating, boasting, slapping marketing gloss on a live wire, and daring the universe to notice. I started having nightmares. Not the metaphorical kind, the full-on body-wrenching jolts where I'd wake up gasping, convinced I was still inside that office, watching customer data spill across a screen while Jasper laughed and raised a champagne glass. I tried reaching out once. I messaged Kristen, the only person I thought might actually get it, bonded over late-night tests and vending machine junk food. I figured, at the very least, she'd give me a pulse check, some kind of insider whisper about whether they'd addressed the breach. Hey, not trying to stir anything. Just wanted to ask, did anyone follow up on ticket hash 1449? Hope you're holding up okay. No hard feelings either way. Message sent. Read. No reply. 12 hours later, her Slack avatar disappeared. Probably blocked. Be muted? Either way, I got the message. I was radioactive. I stared at my inbox like it owed me something. Every job board ping, every recruiter rejection felt like punishment for giving a damn. I kept telling myself I should move on, let it go, reframe the narrative. But I couldn't. Not when the launch was this close. Not when Jasper was posting smug little countdown graphics on LinkedIn, all changing the game in fintech. Only 3 days until we revolutionize how you pay. Revolution, my ass. They were about to serve customer data to the dark web on a silver platter. I started checking the company website daily, then hourly, reading every new blog post, press release, feature description. I scoured the change logs, looking for evidence they'd changed the vulnerable endpoint. Nothing, same structure, same versioning, no authentication notes, no new dependencies. If they had patched it, they weren't showing their work, and knowing Jasper, he'd rather bet the whole company on a good launch day headline than admit his baby had a terminal infection. I started writing a letter, not to a lawyer, not to the press, to the internet, drafting a Medium post titled, "Why I Was Fired for Reporting a Breach and Why It Matters." I didn't publish it, not yet. But the cursor blinked at the top of that draft every night like a loaded gun sitting on my digital nightstand. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. It was 1:47 a.m., and my apartment was doing its usual trick, too quiet to ignore, too loud to sleep. The hum of the fridge was an air raid siren. Every creak in the floorboards might as well have been a countdown to irrelevance. I couldn't shake the taste of that launch ad from earlier, Jasper on camera, grinning like a televangelist on cocaine, rattling off security buzzwords he didn't understand. 256-bit encryption. Military-grade protection. Built on trust. Built on me, asshole. Built on what I built and ignored when it mattered. That's when I opened the tab, not LinkedIn, not Hacker News, not Medium. I went to a forum most security folks don't talk about in polite company. Old school, obscure URL, no JavaScript, text mode by design. No logins, no archives. Kind of place where zero-day exploits and war stories live side by side with conspiracy theories and actual, legitimate warnings from people who don't bluff. I didn't post specifics. I wasn't trying to make headlines, I just wanted someone else to see. To validate that I wasn't insane, that what I saw mattered. So I typed, "Startup launching new fintech app this week. Exposed payment API endpoint, no rate limiting, leaked auth tokens. Fired for reporting it. Not naming names, just be aware." Then I closed the tab and sat back like I'd just tossed a bottle into the ocean. 10 minutes later, it pinged. A reply, plain text, no signature, just, "We've been watching that company. Thanks for the breadcrumb." I stared at the screen like it had grown teeth, not because I was surprised, because I wasn't. I hadn't named anyone. Hadn't listed IPs or ticket numbers or even hinted at geography. Someone had already connected the dots. My fingers hovered. I knew I shouldn't respond. But I did, carefully. I didn't leak anything. Just wanted someone smarter to notice. Let's call it an ethical breadcrumb. Another ping. But this time it wasn't in the thread. It was a private message. The username was a string I recognized, null cradle 3. A handle I'd seen in infosec briefs, in write-ups about defaced government sites, the kind of redacted DOJ docs that made national news for 5 minutes before getting buried under the next dumpster fire. Null Cradle had been linked to Root Decay, the hacktivist collective that once exposed a voter data breach, and publicly crucified the company responsible, with screenshots, internal chat logs, and an interactive map of how they could have rerouted ballots in 3 states. The message was short. Saw your post. We already had eyes on the network. Just gave us the last piece. My heart did that awful hummingbird thing it does when logic trips over fear. I typed, then deleted, 5 drafts before settling on, "I'm not here to collaborate. I didn't give permission for anything." The response came faster than I liked. "You didn't have to. You confirmed what we suspected. No further action needed from you. No smiley. No threat. Just that awful, civil tone people use when the decision's already been made." I shut my laptop, didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, watching patterns emerge in the cracked paint, wondering if I'd just poked a sleeping bear or worse, if I'd fed it. They weren't asking for help. They didn't want access. They had everything already. I was just the match confirming the gas leak. And now I had a choice. Tell someone who, they'd already silenced me once. Go public, I'd look like a lunatic with a vendetta. Do nothing was the part that felt like betrayal. Not to Jasper, not to the company, to myself. Because deep down, behind all the anger and corporate PTSD, I still believed in what I did, in why I did it, and now the thing I'd tried to stop had a new velocity. Not behind locked doors, not buried in HR folders, but out there, in the hands of people who didn't warn, They demonstrated. And they never, ever missed their mark. Launch day came wrapped in that same fake optimism as Christmas in a broken home. You know it's all tinsel and debt, but everyone's grinning anyway, teeth bared like they're trying to convince the void that everything's fine. I watched it unfold from my couch, coffee gone cold, laptop screen dimmed halfway, so I could pretend this wasn't obsession. I told myself I was just curious, just monitoring, like that made it different from stalking your own ghost. Stream started at noon sharp, live stream embedded right on the front page of their site, with a YouTube mirror just in case the first one imploded. Jasper was front and center, of course, all hair gel and hubris, pacing a little too fast on the rented stage they'd rigged in the office lounge. He was wearing that jacket, the shiny one he always saved for investor demos, one that looked like it belonged on a cruise magician or a motivational speaker with a Ponzi scheme. Today, he beamed into the camera. We are redefining what it means to trust your money with innovation. My skin crawled. Behind him, the team clapped like background actors in a soap commercial. Some I recognized, most I didn't. They'd clearly brought in the fresh blood since I got the boot, young, eager, probably fed just enough Kool-Aid to smile on command. Jasper gestured toward a floating graphic behind him that read, "FastPay Banking Evolved." Underneath, now available on iOS and Android, they cut to a demo. Some shiny little animation of how quick it was to link your debit card, how easy it was to send a payment, how secure it all was with end-to-end confidence. No mention of endpoint exposure. No caveats, just big, soothing words like encrypted and compliant and trusted. The chat was a storm of emojis and VCs toasting from their Teslas. Likes rolled in by the hundreds. Influencers started tweeting things like "just tried it, fast pay app, slick UI, and instant transfers." Hell yes, raising hands, and me, I just sat there, watching, waiting, hoping for once that I was wrong. The app launched. It hit the stores. Download numbers ticked up. 5,000, 10, 100. Transactions started processing. I tracked the blockchain traffic like a divorcee checking her ex's Instagram. Constant, unhealthy, deeply personal. No breach. No spike in weird outbound traffic. No DNS anomalies. No new threads in the forums. Just clean flow. Data humming along like a dream. The vulnerability should have been tripped by now if anyone was watching. If Null Cradle was really pulling the trigger. By 4 p.m., I started to doubt myself. Maybe I had exaggerated. Maybe it had been patched in secret, or disabled, or buried under some quiet hotfix they never documented. Maybe Jasper wasn't a sociopathic tech bro playing Russian roulette with customer data. Maybe he was just a narcissist who got lucky. Maybe the hacker group decided not to act. Or maybe they didn't exist at all, and I'd just woven some fantasy around a forum reply to justify how much this whole thing was still chewing at my bones. More nothing happened, the worse it felt. That gnawing sensation behind my ribs, the one I'd carried since they booted me, started to change shape. Shrink, tighten. Maybe it was me. Maybe I'd been dramatic, paranoid, traumatized. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a job messed with your head enough to make you see ghosts where there were just reflections. I closed the stream, stared at the App Store page, downloaded the app just to feel the interface in my hand. It was smooth, fast, sleek. My phone buzzed with the welcome message. "Welcome to FastPay, we're glad you're here." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I tossed the phone onto the couch, opened a beer I didn't want, and sat there in the half-darkness with the windows cracked just enough to let the night in. Hours passed. Nothing burned, no breach, no exposure, no retribution. Just silence. And that silence, though calm and clean and complete, was the loudest goddamn thing I'd heard all week. At 11:58 p.m., the quiet cracked like a rib. I was halfway through a second beer I didn't need, reruns droning in the background, when the alerts started popping off like firecrackers strung to a corpse. First came the Discord buzz. Someone in an old security channel tagged it all with just one word, "Look." Then my phone buzzed, and buzzed again. And again. It was like someone had unzipped hell and dumped the contents into every inbox I'd ever touched. Reddit posts, Twitter threads, Pastabins blinking in and out of existence. But it was the email that punched through the fog. I still had access to a dummy inbox, one of the test accounts I used for internal QA, tied to a shared credentials pool nobody ever bothered to deactivate. No two-factor. No revocation. It was still tied to every mailing list, every all-hands distro. And there it was. Subject, "You should have listened to him," timestamp. 11:58 p.m. From root decay dispatch to fast pay, all execs at FastPay, interns at FastPay, support at FastPay, legal at FastPay. They'd CC'd the entire company. No salutation, no disclaimer, no legalese. Just the body text, enjoy your launch. Here's what we found. Below it, a single video file. File name, proof alive and screaming MP4. I hesitated, just long enough to feel the acid in my stomach curdle. Then I hit play. The screen lit up with terminal windows. Clean, precise, not flashy, just fact, a data stream. Customer profiles, live names, home addresses, linked debit cards, IPs, unmasked tokens. It wasn't screenshots. It wasn't logs. It was real-time exfiltration. I watched as the cursor moved, methodical, indifferent, through the same /fastpay/process batch endpoint I'd flagged. It's like seeing a surgical video of your own autopsy. The camera feed shifted to a live dashboard. Customer hash 0009231, $327.81. Customer hash 0009247, $2,938.04. Customer hash 0009250, $0.34, all siphoned out in under 10 seconds. One request. No auth, no throttle. Just open veins and happy little green check marks. The video ended with a static black screen and a blinking cursor that typed 3 last words: audit everything. Now, I sat frozen, not scared, not angry, just numb, like my soul had clenched its teeth and was waiting for the rest of me to catch up. Then the Slack leaks began. A senior engineer posted in Hash Infra, "Is this real?" Someone from legal dropped a do not engage warning into Hash General. Marketing deleted 3 launch tweets in under 60 seconds. The CTO posted a single line before vanishing, investigating. Please stand by. That's when the support team started melting down. I saw an internal memo leak in real time, high-volume customer inquiries regarding data leak. Escalate to Tier 2. They didn't even try to deny it. Support scripts were already shifting from reassure to redirect. Within 15 minutes, TechCrunch had it. 20 after that, Wired. By midnight, the FastPay app had 93 one-star reviews, most of them just writing "you should have listened to him." I laughed once, sharp, dry, like metal snapping in my throat, because they'd gotten it wrong. It wasn't him they should have listened to, it was me. I minimized the video, looked down at my keyboard, hands shaking, not from adrenaline, from the weight lifting. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't doubting myself. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't alone. I was right. And now the world knew it. By 12:42 a.m., the #FastPay leak was trending at number 4 in the US. By 1:10, it had hit number 1. Somewhere between my 3rd cup of cold brew and my 4th Twitter refresh, news cycles picked it up like hungry dogs, sniffing fresh blood. Breaking. Major fintech app compromised hours after launch. She was right. Insiders say of whistleblower behind critical, ignored Flaw exclusive. Hacker collective root decay releases proof of live data theft. I sat there in sweatpants. Greasy hair scraped into a claw clip, watching my old company melt down in real time like a slow-motion car crash, choreographed to the sound of vindication. App got pulled from both stores before dawn. Apple just said violation of privacy policies. Google was less polite. Their takedown page mentioned active exploitation of user data through unsecured API structures. Translation, they nuked it. Investors, they bailed before the sunlight touched their spreadsheets. A thread started circulating with screenshots from WhatsApp investor groups, panicked messages like pulling funding, no longer viable, damaging to the portfolio's reputation. FastPay's Series C round, dead before it landed. Jasper's Twitter went offline by 2:30 a.m. Just gone, no apology, no explanation. Like he'd ghosted his own digital identity the same way he ghosted Logic in every damn product meeting. The CTO tried to hold on. Issued a LinkedIn post about unauthorized intrusion, claimed they were reviewing internal processes. Root Decay replied in the comments with a single word: liar. His account vanished 10 minutes later. By sunrise, the office was barricaded behind PR speak and legalese. Their homepage was just a white page with a statement: "We are aware of the security incident impacting FastPay. We are working with law enforcement and independent investigators. All operations are currently suspended." But it was too late. Screenshots of the exploit video were circulating everywhere. Users were tagging their friends, quoting the tagline with venom. Bank-level security, they said. She was right. She warned them and they buried her. I didn't post. I didn't reply. I just watched. Then came the article. It dropped at 7:44 a.m. on The Verge. Title: Ignored Warnings and Open Gates. How Fast Pay Launched into a Data Catastrophe. The byline had a familiar name. Old contact of mine who once covered a healthcare breach I consulted on. I hadn't sent anything. But clearly someone had. And there, tucked 4 paragraphs down, was a quote from a former employee who requested anonymity. I tried to warn them. I followed protocol. I was let go before I could fix it. Just one line, just enough. The internet ran with it like gospel. She was right became a battle cry. People printed it on t-shirts. Someone edited it into Jasper's old launch livestream with a freeze frame of his smug grin and the words flashing underneath in red text. I got DMs, hundreds, from strangers, from security pros, from ex-colleagues who didn't have the spine to back me then, but suddenly found one when the torches were lit. Kristen messaged me, "I'm sorry, I should have said something." Lewis too, "You deserved better." Yeah, I did. Here's the thing about vindication. It doesn't come with a paycheck. My rent was still due. My health insurance still expired at the end of the month. The laptop I was using, still 3 updates behind because I'd been rationing battery life and dignity since they shoved me out. The company burned, and sure, I was warm, but it didn't feel like justice. It felt like standing outside your own funeral and realizing everyone showed up only because the catering was good. It was right. I'd saved thousands of people from digital ruin, and I was still broke, still alone, still waiting for someone to say, "You belong here." Instead, all I got was silence and smoke. The email subject line read, "Your work on fast pay." I thought it was spam. Thought it was another rando looking to wring clout out of the fire I'd barely survived. But then I saw the domain. Valence.com. One of the top-tier cybersecurity firms, federal contracts, international clients. The kind of place where people with names like mine don't usually get callbacks unless they've got war stories and scars to match. The body was short, clean, surgical. "We've seen your documentation and your discretion. Would you be open to a conversation? No flattery, no promises, just respect." 3 days later, I walked into their Cleveland office, gray brick, polished steel, quiet money. Reception was all frosted glass and soft jazz, like even the building had secrets. The hiring manager was a woman named Priya, mid-40s, sharp eyes, zero bullshit. She didn't shake my hand, just pointed at the chair across from her and said, "You handled it better than most." I didn't reply. She pulled up a folder. "We've reviewed everything. Your incident notes, your post-C, your forum post. Hell, even your Slack messages. You didn't leak. You documented. You held the line while they set the matchbook on fire." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want to hire someone who lights up red flags in HR?" She grinned. "Only the good ones do." Then she leaned forward. "It wasn't just that you were right. It's that you stayed clean. You didn't feed the flames. You didn't leak a thing. And yet, somehow, the fire found its way to them anyway." I didn't say a word because I didn't have to. The offer was generous. More than I'd made at fast pay. Benefits that didn't feel like bribes. Title that actually meant something. Vulnerability Response Lead. When I signed, her smile turned into something quieter, more private. "You'll have your own team. You'll decide what's noise and what's nuclear. And when someone raises a red flag, we listen." I walked out of that office with a keycard, a laptop, and the first full breath I'd taken in months. The wind didn't sting anymore. It moved with me. In the parking garage, I checked my phone one last time before driving home. An unread message. Sender, null cradle 3, no subject. No timestamp. Just the text, "You stayed clean, so we got dirty." I stared at it, let it settle. Let the corners of my mouth twitch, slow and certain. Then I deleted it. No screenshot, no reply. Just a tap and it vanished. I turned off my phone, slipped it into the glove box, and started the engine. Behind me, Fast Pay was a crater with a logo. Ahead of me was a desk with my name on it, a badge that opened the right doors, and a future that no longer needed to apologize. I didn't torch them. I just told the truth. And truth, when lit just right, burns better than vengeance ever could. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.